Good evening and welcome to Up for the Bowl. It's the night before the big game and we've plenty to look forward to as we build up to tomorrow. On tonight's show, two-time Super Bowl champion Brandon Stokley, Jacqui Hurley from RTE and Hannah Wilkes from Sky Sports.
Some of us only hope to get to a game for once in our lives, especially over here. But we have a guest today that didn't just play for around 14 years, but has played for so many teams: the Ravens, the Colts, the Broncos, Seahawks, multiple Super Bowl champion, etc. Brandon Stokley. Brandon, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Brandon, we ask everybody this when they come on. Have you any Irish connections yourself?
Not that I'm aware of. Probably somewhere along my family tree, but not that I'm aware of. Maybe somebody can do some digging for me and do a little detective work.
You might have to come over and have some Guinness and maybe play some golf while we do that digging around, Brandon. We can definitely do that. Now look, we're building up to the Super Bowl, and you are one of the select few people on the planet. You didn't just play in the Super Bowl. You didn't just win a Super Bowl. You caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. Can you talk to us about that first Super Bowl and I suppose the lead up to it, and the experience of coming out onto the field and catching that pass?
Yeah, it was just amazing. I was early 20s, and I was kind of pinching myself that I was just playing in the NFL. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I never really expected that. And then it just kind of happened so quickly. And then there I was in the NFL, and my second year in the NFL, we had a good team with Baltimore. We weren't a great team, and we just got better and better and better as the season progressed. And next thing you know, you get into the playoffs, and then anything can happen. And we started playing really good football, and you look up and we're going to the Super Bowl. And it was just one of those moments in my life that you just look at and just like, wow, I really, really feel so blessed and so thankful to have that opportunity. And you're running out there on the field, and light bulbs are going off everywhere, and the stadium's going nuts. And you know how many people are watching that game. And just a couple years before, I was sitting on the couch watching the game in college. So, like you said, there I was early on, and I was running my route and was able to get open and looked up, and the ball was coming in the air, and perfect pass from Trent Dilfer. And I was fortunate to have enough leg strength there to get into the end zone. But that was certainly a fun play for me, and that game was just awesome.
Brandon, as a Giants fan, I still actually do remember that game. One particular thing about that game I always remember: Kerry Collins was like a punch bag to the Ravens defense in that game. He went from a brilliant championship game against the Vikings to being absolutely a no-hoper in that game. But another quarterback who you've had the opportunity to play with, and again, not many players get the opportunity over so many years to have a great chemistry with, Peyton Manning. Can you tell us what it was like to play with Peyton Manning, your experience, and what kind of guy he is?
Yeah, he's the best. There's a reason why he was so good for so long. The work, the commitment, the attention to detail is second to none. And so when you go out there on Sundays to play your game, you put that work in during the week, and there's no gray area. He trusts you. He knows where you're going to be. And you just go out there and do it. It's second nature because you've done it over and over and over again. Obviously very talented, but he's a competitor, loves to compete, and just a great guy, a guy that was driven to win and be the best. And every day he would show up to the building with a great attitude, looking to get better. He was able to walk that fine line of being just a great friend, but also somebody that pushes you and a great leader. But he was, I'm fortunate to play with him for, a few years in Indy and 1 year in Denver. Very, very lucky there.
Brandon, obviously in Indy, it wasn't just Peyton Manning, but, Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne, obviously one a Hall of Famer, one at the time of recording, we don't know, but he's obviously in the running along with Peyton for the Hall of Fame this year. But I'm curious, and obviously you made a journey like the whole franchise did from Baltimore to Indianapolis. But whilst you're in the master's class in offense in Indianapolis, going back to Baltimore, obviously at that time, they were more renowned for their players on defense and their hard-nosed attitude on defense. And I'm just wondering, as an offensive skill player, was that hard to deal with in terms of either kind of recognition and acknowledgement, or even just in terms of pain in practice? I can imagine with some of the players they had there.
Yeah, it was tough. Practice was tough going up against those guys in Baltimore. I mean, so talented all over the place. So you certainly knew where our defenders were and tried to avoid a lot of those guys during practice. You didn't want to take those hits from Ray Lewis and Rod Woodson and all those guys. I mean, we just had such a great defense. And offensively, we were an offense that was kind of trying to find our identity. We weren't very explosive. We didn't have a very good passing game. And we kind of, the Super Bowl year, we kind of figured it out. Let's just run the football and play great defense. And that's what we're able to do. But certainly, we were trying to take that next step and become a better passing team. And we just never really did that and couldn't be consistent enough. And that's why, unfortunately, we never got back to the Super Bowl in my time there. But it was, it's one of those things where, for me, we didn't need the recognition. It's all about going out there winning and trying to win a Super Bowl and kind of knowing your role on the team and just trying to be a good team player.
Brandon, a couple of elements to my question. The first one is this: 20 years since you won it with the Ravens. We've seen your tweet last week, I guess now with the recording, when it went out, the bottle of wine, the cigars, the big celebration. I seen you obviously very proud of that. Did you have a big celebration with the guys again, and was it good seeing them again? And secondly, Brandon, you're obviously, you've played in Super Bowls, you've won Super Bowls. What's it like Super Bowl Sunday? All the hype, all the talk. You're actually the guy in the locker room about to walk onto the field. What's that pressure situation like going into that situation?
Yeah, it was we had to do a Zoom reunion, unfortunately, and couldn't get everybody together. They do plan on doing that at some point, hopefully this fall, of flying everybody into Baltimore and have a big celebration. But it was great. You don't see a lot of guys. Everybody's all over the country, and you really don't see a lot of guys anymore. And everybody's got things that they're doing, and it's hard just to keep up. So it was really special to see a lot of the guys and kind of reminisce and laugh and certainly drink some wine. And it was just a really, really fun evening because you don't get that much anymore. And when you start getting older and older, that's the stuff that you live for. And that's what's special about Super Bowl teams. It's obviously the Super Bowl ring is great, but it's those relationships that you built and the bonds that you have with your brother. And you went out there and you accomplished something great. And so it's always good to reminisce and see those guys and laugh and joke and tell stories. So that was a great night, certainly. And then, leading up on Super Bowl Sunday, I mean, you feel the butterflies, it's here, and and realize, especially when it's your first time, that this might be it, that you might not ever have this opportunity again. Let's go take advantage of it. Let's enjoy the moment, but let's also take advantage of it. Let's not let this opportunity slip away. And you get in the locker room and you see the program, the Super Bowl program there, you're looking through it, and you realize the magnitude of the game. If you win it, you'll always be a Super Bowl champion. They can never take it away from you. If you lose it, it's just another year. What did you do? What did you accomplish? You didn't really accomplish anything. You got to the Super Bowl, which is cool, but losing it, that would have been, just awful. I couldn't imagine getting that far and losing it. So certainly wanted to take advantage of that opportunity, and you just realize the magnitude of it. And then running out there on the field, it's just, once again, it's there, it's here, and it's game time, and let's go play football. And you try to calm yourself down, just tell yourself it's just another game, but you can't. It's not another game. It's a Super Bowl, so you just got to do your best and kind of put all that other stuff aside and remember it is just a football game and go play your best.
And Brandon, I suppose that kind of building on that, you mentioned earlier in terms of that Ravens season, and it started kind of slow and then it built. But like in terms of teams, you've look, you obviously talent and great players and great coaching is all a factor. But having been to Super Bowls, like, is there a moment where you realize that it all clicks, or is it one game at a time until you actually get there?
Yeah, I think it's really one game at a time. I've been on some great teams during the regular season, some really good ones that didn't make the Super Bowl. Get in the playoffs and you don't play your best football game and you're out. So it's really one of those situations where once you finish with the regular season, you just got to put that behind you and move on and play your best football in the playoffs. And like I said, unfortunately, I've been on some really good teams that just weren't able to do that and play our best football in the playoffs. And we thought we were a Super Bowl team and we should have been a Super Bowl team, but we weren't. And I've been on that Ravens team where, you know what, it was just kind of plowing ahead one game at a time. We get in the playoffs. It's like, okay, this is great. And we got hot. If you get hot in that moment, anything can happen. And we got hot and kept that momentum going all the way to a Super Bowl victory.
Brandon, playing in the Super Bowl is, I suppose, it's not just about the game. It's the frenzy that comes with the week leading up to the game in terms of all the media commitments that the players have to do. We've seen for years podiums in the stadiums, different players with all the different media. Obviously, this season is going to be very, very different to what we've ever seen before. Do you think, in a strange way, it will be beneficial to the players that they don't have to go through all the additional work, shall we say, in terms of the interviews? I know it'll be all over video conferencing, but certainly wouldn't be the same as what we're used to seeing.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, very different. It's going to be interesting to see how those guys talk about it. The Chiefs, because the Chiefs were there last year. Pretty much their whole team is back this year. So those guys can kind of compare the two, how this year's compared to last year. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that week of the media, and you have the big. You get to the stadium for the big media day, and you got hundreds of media members all around, and it's kind of like a little party, is what it is. It's a fun event, and I've been on both sides. I've been for a media as a media member interviewing players, and I've been there as a player, and it's a cool event. So I enjoyed the whole week, and certainly you can let things be distractions if you want to, but I just try to soak it all in and enjoy it. And so it's going to be interesting to see how these players feel this year, because they're not getting there till, I believe, Friday to Tampa, and they're doing, like you said, everything's going to be Zoomed and a video conference and all that stuff. So it's going to be a lot different for them, and you just got to adapt. It's kind of is what it is, and that usually the team that adapts the best is a team that's going to go out there and play the best.
Brandon, love talking to you, hearing from you. You're talking about great teams you were on. I mean, I think we shouldn't gloss over. I mean, the 2004 Colts. I mean, you, Marvin Harrison, and Reggie Wayne were the first trio of teammates to all have 10 receiving touchdowns that season. You caught, if I'm correct, the Dan Marino breaking touchdown from Peyton Manning, obviously, when he broke that record. And we could talk for a long time about that season, about the Colts in 2004, I'm sure. But I want to ask you about a different moment with a different team. So we're talking about the Super Bowl, we're talking about the playoffs, and we're talking about moments, and moments that resonate with fans all around the place. And if I'm bringing you to the 2010 season, I think it was, and you are a Seattle Seahawk, and you're a 7-9 season, not the greatest season, but you did win your division in the NFC West, and you are hosting the New Orleans Saints, who are coming in 11-5. And you had a great game. I mean, you 4 catches for 73 yards. You got a 45-yard touchdown bomb from Matt Hasselbank. But forgive me, I think that game will be remembered for a different moment, and that was, of course, the Beastquake. I mean, we're talking seismic actual activity caused by the Seahawks fans. Can you just share with us your recollections and how that game and how it unfolded, and that moment as well?
Yeah, obviously it was such a cool moment. And like you said, we weren't a good team that year. We were 7-9, fortunate to get in the playoffs, and we're playing the Saints, who were the defending Super Bowl champion. And they had obviously a lot better season than us. We played them in the regular season, and they just destroyed us. expectations weren't very high, but we knew that if we could make a few plays and we're playing at home, get that crowd in it, we could make it a good football game. And we just got rolling. We were playing pretty well during that game. And next thing you know, we had a nice lead and we were holding on to the lead. And there we are in the fourth quarter. And I'm on the sideline and I'm watching. I'm saying, man, we just need a couple first downs here. Let's just get a couple first downs. We'll be able to run out the clock and celebrate. This is going to be so cool and win a playoff game. And as a team that quite frankly, wasn't very good. And there we were. And I'm watching Marshawn Lynch, and he's such a tough runner. And it's so hard to tackle him and just break tackle after tackle after tackle. And I'm behind the play, and I'm just sitting there like a fan, like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, is he still going? Oh my goodness, he's still going. And then you see him jump in the end zone. It's like, it was just unbelievable. And the place just went, like you said, it's called the Beastquake for a reason, just went absolutely crazy. And, we win the football game, and just a cool NFL moment. And to be a part of that game was awesome.
Brandon, like, you've been in the league. It's not too long ago. Like, if you look back in the night, it seems almost like it's only 10, 12 years ago in that sense. Like, looking at Tom Brady then when you were playing, Brandon, did you really think he'd be suiting up at 43 years old for a Super Bowl? It's incredible. It's nuts.
It is. It really is. Testament to him and his work ethic and what he does to prepare for the season. And playing quarterback now isn't like playing quarterback 20 years ago. You can't really hit the quarterback. Once he throws the ball, if you touch him, you're getting a flag. If you graze his helmet, you're getting a flag. So obviously there's a lot of protections in place for a quarterback, but still to keep his arm strength and to keep his mobility and the things that he's still able to do is really remarkable. And he's still doing it at such a high level in big time moments, delivering. And so, all you can do is just kind of marvel at what he's been able to accomplish and still accomplish. And who knows when this thing is going to end.
And Brandon, obviously there's some pretty big name receivers going to be taken to the field, but you as somebody who played in the league and were a very good wide receiver, what does it take to be a good wide receiver in the National Football League?
Well, you got to have, good hands, good hand-eye coordination. You got to be able to be a little bit of a magician. You got to be able to sell the defensive back one thing and do something else. And so I think you need quickness. I think you need, to be able to do some things to fool guys and so change a direction, change the speed, all of those things, and obviously have good hands help. And so for me, when I went from Baltimore to Indy, I learned a lot about the position when I was in Indy and with Peyton Manning, and the attention to detail and gaining the trust of your quarterback. You want that guy to trust you, and he's got to be able to trust you, because when it's 4th down and 5 or 3rd down and 8, he's got to know exactly where you're going to be, and you got to be there for him because guys are rushing and he's got pressure on him, and he can't think, is he going to be there? Is he going to do this? So I think, that's very, very important, is to have that trust and the quarterback trust you that you're going to do what you're supposed to do.
And then just coming on to the game itself, in Tampa, is there any particular parts of the game where you see it being won and lost? The conversation is all about Mahomes and Brady, but is there any other factors is it the Bucs defense that potentially will win the game more so than Brady?
Well, yeah, you look at the Bucs defense and how well they've been playing, and they got a really good group. They got a great front. Their front 4 plus their 2 linebackers, it's hard to run the football on them. And when you can't run the football and they make you one-dimensional, it's tough in the NFL to do that. And they got a good secondary, and they got guys that can get pressure on you in the passing game too. So their defense is playing their best football right now. And certainly if they can put pressure on Patrick Mahomes with just their front 4 and not having to blitz a lot of guys, I think that'll be a key for them. I look at the Chiefs and you look at their defense, and I think they're a group that doesn't get enough recognition. And certainly they got their hands full with all the weapons that Tampa Bay has. So it's going to be interesting. Everybody, like you said, everybody looks at the offenses there with Tampa and Kansas City. But I think it's going to come down to which defense plays better.
So, Brandon, I mean, we honestly could talk to you all day, but one final question generally, or two final questions. You played for Brian Billick, for Tony Dungy, for fantastic coaches all through your career, Hall of Fame coaches, obviously, that are likely to go on to greater things. I'm curious, and I need to press you for a pick, obviously, at the end of this. But what are your thoughts on the two coaches? Pete Carroll, I should mention as well, for the Seahawks fans, so they don't lynch me. But what are your thoughts on the two coaches involved here? Obviously, Andy Reid back-to-back Super Bowls after disappointment earlier on. Bruce Arians' first Super Bowl. And after you tell us that, tell us Brandon Stokley's pick for who's going to win this Super Bowl.
Okay. I think when you look at both of these coaches, obviously, look, Andy Reid won it last year. And you look how he's handled the playoffs. You look at what he did against Cleveland there on that 4th down and inches by throwing the football. He's not scared. He'll be aggressive. And I think you saw in the AFC and NFC championship games with Buffalo and with Green Bay, coaches coaching scared and coaching nervous. And you look at Andy Reid, he's not going to coach scared. He's not going to coach nervous. And I think that's a huge plus. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He's been there. That team has been there. So that's a big bonus for the Chiefs. And then you look at Tampa, and Bruce Arians is the same way. You saw him go for the 4th down right before half against Green Bay and then score that touchdown a play later. So he's not scared either. He's not going to coach scared or conservative. And I think that's a big thing when you're in the Super Bowl, is to not let the moment, we talk about that as a player, not let the moment get the best of you. Just keep doing what you've been doing all year. But also for coaches can get nervous and coach nervous. So I don't expect to see that, though, with either one of these guys. I don't think the moment will be too big. So I give 2 checks for both of these coaches. I think they got what it takes to win this football game and coach like they've been coaching all year. And then when I look at who I'm going to take in this game, I think it's going to be a really good football game. Really, really good football game that could go either way. But I'm going to give a slight edge to the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending champion. I just think their offensive firepower is too much. I think their defense is underrated. And so I'm going to give a slight edge to Kansas City. But I'm expecting it to be a good game. And Tampa Bay's hot right now. Kind of reminds me of the run that we went on there in Baltimore. So playing in their home stadium. But I'm going with the Chiefs.
And you know what, Brandon? The time is going to tell. It's going to be a great game as well, and we're really looking forward to it. Brandon, I want to thank you for your time, your support, and just taking up your time to chat to us as well ahead of this game. And enjoy the game. You can catch Brandon, folks, if you're in Ireland, the UK, around Europe as well. 104.3 The Fan, a Denver radio station. Google it. You can listen live with no VPN, so you have no excuse. Brandon, thanks a million for your time, man. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed the chat. And, let's do it again here soon.
Right, we're almost at Super Sunday. You can feel the tension right now, but to join us today, a great guest, folks, from Sky Sports NFL. Really enjoyed the content all year from Sky Sports, making us feel a little bit closer in the season that has really been one like no other. Hannah Wilkes. Hannah, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Hannah, I ask everybody this, and I know you're basically in the UK and you're very close to us in that sense, but have you any Irish connections yourself? Any affinity to Ireland itself?
So, I was thinking about this before I came on, and I'm racking my brains. And, I think somewhere down the line, I actually text my dad going, oh, we got some Irish family somewhere. But I think somewhere way down the line on someone's side there is, but nothing too immediate, sadly. But I do love Ireland.
Well, we're glad to hear that, and you definitely have 4 tour guides the next time you're over visiting.
Excellent.
I suppose we're all kind of just off the media availability session, Hannah, and I know you were part of that. Obviously, from this part of the world, we're often doing kind of Zoom links in terms of the NFL. But how did you find that media availability section today? Obviously very different to traditional Super Bowl media day.
Yeah, it was strange, wasn't it? And actually, we've been talking about it for a few days at the Sky Sports NFL kind of crew, because we just didn't know what to expect. And the good thing with media availability usually is that you can get something from someone, and media night, opening night, is a bit of a scrum, but the actual availability, you've got this room and you can see the table, so you can kind of judge where to go to, and you might be like, oh, I want to talk to him, but it's really busy now, I'll come back later. It's hard to judge when it's all virtual. So yeah, sort of going into these like separate Zoom rooms, and some of them you're sat there for ages and you've like raised your hand and you're just like, are they ever going to come to me? But then also the advantage, the difference I think as well is that you're kind of getting everyone's answers. So it's more of a conversation rather than the player, because I know when I've done the media availability before, players are literally answering the same questions over and over for different outlets. So I guess the advantage here was that you didn't get that player fatigue, because people are like, well, actually, you've answered that and I have access to that footage, so I'll ask you something slightly different. So it was a more varied conversation, but it was a bit strange. And what I have to say is, bearing in mind it's literally my job to ask people questions, the few times I did hear, we'll go to Hannah next, I was like, oh my goodness, because it pops up that you have to like click unmute and then you actually have to ask the question, and it suddenly felt really high pressured. Whereas usually in a real life situation, it's not something that ever causes any sort of nerves whatsoever. And I did kind of miss being there and like getting the elbows out and giving that really determined eye contact, like, you will answer me next, you will talk to me next. But hey, you know what? I think it worked quite well. I was on the one with Rob Gronkowski, and he actually said, usually like media night, you get your juices flowing and you get really exciting. He's like, but for this, he's like, I've just been in the locker room, I just got changed, I just come sit, we have a chat. So actually, this is quite nice too. And it kind of is really. I mean, I did it in my slippers, and I haven't got any jet lag, so it could be worse.
Hannah, the On Overtime show, which you've done throughout the season with Josh, obviously the year that we're living in, with things being so unusual, have you found doing the show very different to previous years in terms of working on Sky Sports? Anything unusual, more so than other years, that you want to tell us about?
Yeah, well, I suppose the strange thing is, because this is the first year of overtime, in a way we don't know any different. We obviously were doing it in studio, and then when the third lockdown was announced, we've had to do it from home, just to minimize the number of people going to Sky and to keep everyone safe. So that was the first sort of like adjustment, if you were, that was pure COVID. And I think it's gone okay. We're all a little bit worried because it's a show where there's so much banter and chatting that you kind of need to be giving each other those like non-verbal cues and having that sort of energy together. But it's all been absolutely fine. But I guess what has made it strange with starting a show in this time is the whole sort of lead up and setup of it. Like, usually a show like this, you'd be having lots of little conversations in the office with the guys that work full time on the NFL, just like here and now you'd walk past and like, this idea, having all those conversations. And Josh and I would have had the chance to sort of meet up, go for coffee, whatever, get to know each other a little bit. Whereas as it was, because of how we have to make the show, combined with this random central London roadwork situation on the day of the very first show, the first time we met, literally, was Josh walking into the studio. I was like, hi, nice to meet you. You sit here. Hello and welcome to Overtime. Because we just didn't, it was one of those days everything went a bit wrong, because everything runs late when you do a new show for the first time. Throw in like some massive bridge closure in London, and that was literally the first time we met. So it was challenging in that regard, because it's that kind of show as well, where you need that rapport and you need that banter relationship. And so I'm really proud of what we created, because I don't think that ever really held us back. And I hope watching it wasn't like, oh, these lot all met 5 minutes ago. It helped that when we started, we had Rob in the studio as well, and I've known Rob for a couple of years, so we already had that. So it's quite easy to sort of just bring Josh into that, and then our relationship has developed over the course of the series as well. So yeah, it was different in that there was no meetings, no rehearsals, no getting to know everyone, but I'm so proud of what we've achieved, because I don't think that actually has shown at all, which is quite remarkable, because when I worked on other shows, that chemistry building beforehand is almost more important than what you do in episode 1.
Hannah, it sounds like almost like TV production crossed with blind date in some way. Graham just says, here's who you're going to be working with this week.
I mean, with Josh's Love Island credentials, that feels like
Hey.
that's a natural crossover.
It was clearly part of the plan. But look, both you and Josh, but obviously you before that, you've been involved on the NFL side with the digital media side, and as you said, known Rob a few years already through on the show and across it, whether it's players, whether it's coaches, whether it's people in the media like Kay Adams for Good Morning Football. We saw your interview with her only last week. Just, I have to ask the obvious question, who's been the most fun to interview and why?
I can't answer that.
Yeah, you can. Go on.
I can't. I mean, I'm not going to lie, and I think I've said this on the show. I have loved having my weekly chat with Kay, and I'm trying to plot a way that we can continue to have our weekly chat, because quite often we're just chatting like us guys are, like we are now, and the producer will kind of be like, "Can we need to do the actual questions." So that and her making time for us every week has been amazing, and I know sort of all of the NFL Network and Good Morning Football, they're all really excited that we've got this dedicated channel over here, and they're really excited that they've got more, UK fans watching what they do, and so and her energy was great. Yes, it's been absolutely brilliant. I can't pick though. When you look at who we've had on the show, so we had Rob Ryan for weeks, then we had Vince Young, and Jeff's been over. We had Phoebe Schechter on repeatedly. Jay Ajayi's dialed in. Baldy's been dialing in. Erica Tamposi was in week 1. I cannot, it's just like my dream lineup of like amazing NFL people. So I can't pick. I won't pick. You can't make me.
And I think we can say this now. Baldy's coming on the show on Sunday by the time this has been out, so it's not secret news anymore. He's a gentleman, but talking there, Hannah, obviously you're talking there about Sky Sports and the NFL working together for that dedicated channel. You've been with Sky Sports for a considerable amount of time. Could you even talk to us even about your journey and how you've sort of started? And you've been in a number of different roles over the last few years.
Yeah, sure. So I first walked into Sky Sports the summer of 2010, I think, because I managed to get some work experience for 2 weeks in the summer, and I was still at uni at the time. So I did a couple of weeks work experience, sort of helping out different teams and in the office and all the rest of it. And at the end of the 2 weeks, I wasn't going to leave. So I basically went and asked if I could have some kind of encouragement from some producers who I'd been working with and their backing. Went and asked for some running shifts as a runner, and then had a few shifts the rest of that summer, and then went back to uni. And I did a lot of student TV and student radio at uni, so I was kind of doing that, and then when I could, I'd go to Sky and do running shifts. And then when I graduated, I just went full time basically as a runner. So I think I've worked on every sport Sky has had in the last 10 years in some capacity. Like I can't think of one that's passed me by, which is quite impressive considering that at one point we even had kabaddi. So I kind of started as a runner and then worked my way up doing more sort of like junior assistant producer stuff on a real variety of sports, which was so great. Like kind of the more niche ones as well. So you kind of get given bigger opportunities when it's sort of less high profile. So I worked on a real range of stuff. And then when Sky started Game Changers, which was their sort of family sports show, I was the junior assistant producer on that for a couple of years. And then I became the reporter for a year or so. And then just because of changes to the show, I kind of became assistant producer / presenter of it. And then alongside doing that, I started reporting on other bits and bobs, equestrian coverage, 10-pin bowling, anything anyone would let me near. And eventually started doing some social media stuff for our NFL coverage, which I'd been knocking on that door for a while. And eventually I think our lead producer in the NFL was like, fine, just shut up. And then from there, so I started reporting on the Wembley games and doing the stuff in studio for Thanksgiving and the playoffs. And now here we are. So yeah, it's one of those things, I think, to a lot of NFL people, especially, they're like, oh, where have you come from? And it's like, no, I've been working at this for a while, for a long time, and done a lot of stuff behind the scenes and taken every opportunity I can, reporting or on screen. So It's all good. Hard work pays off, I guess.
Indeed, and I suppose we're seeing in terms of hard work paying off. This Super Bowl, one of the, many storylines is the diversity. We've female official, obviously female assistants, the diversity on both coaching staffs. I suppose, Hannah, do you think this is the season where the league wakes up to the fact that diversity is actually a strength?
Well, I think it's been getting there for some time, and actually, it's interesting because I was on the media availability with both of the Bucks female coaches 2 hours ago, and both of them said separately. MJ kind of said, "I look forward to the day that this is no longer newsworthy," and Laurie Locust said as well. She was like, it doesn't matter. She's like, we're quite thankful that we're not first because Katie Sowers did it last year. So we thought the attention would be a bit less, but it doesn't matter if we're second or 200th. We're just doing a job, and I think Bruce Arians has to be able to take a lot of credit for diversifying coaching staff. He hired Jen Welter years ago as an intern coach, wasn't it? I think she was the very first woman to coach in the NFL, and I think the awareness is there. I think you look, we're having more female officials. Sarah Thomas is going to be the down judge on Sunday in Tampa. So it's like anything, isn't it? It's when women haven't been able or haven't been allowed to do something for so long, it's always going to take some time to catch up. But I think what we're seeing now is there are those pathways being put in place because there's a realization that there's some very talented female coaches, female players even as well. So look at what's happened in college level this year. But because they haven't traditionally had those opportunities, there aren't the coaching trees. There aren't those networks. And that's what actually Laurie Locust said as well, that we don't have a coaching tree. We are the ones that are now creating it and hopefully forging those pathways for the women that come after us. So I think it's a really exciting time. And I think people know the talent is there. And I don't think it's seen as like a bold or a brave move anymore. And what was noticeable as well, but on both those press conferences, no one asked, how have you gained the respect? It's like Laurie Locust is there telling Ndamukong Suh to like, do this, do that. It's not, how did you gain his respect? Because everyone knows that it's there. She got that job because she earned it. So yeah, I think it's a really exciting time. And I think we're only going to see more of it. And it's something that I hope we then start to see more of over here in the UK in our sports, because I do often feel that NFL is a bit further ahead of us, and the American sports generally are a bit further down the line, partly because of the college sports system, and they have got a bit more of a pathway and a platform for female sport at every level. But no, I think it's a really exciting time, and bring it on, bring on more, bring on the girls.
Hannah, just bringing it to the big game itself, I suppose the main storyline at the moment is Brady versus Mahomes, and will Brady get a 7th ring, or will Mahomes win it 2 years in a row? Is there any other particular storylines or narrative that you're keeping an eye on?
Oh my gosh, there are storylines wherever you look at this matchup, right? Yeah, it's Brady Mahomes. That's like the big one in lights. That's the headline. But can the Chiefs go back to back? That's huge. You've got these two incredible offenses as well. So it's which of those can seal the deal. Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, find me a more exciting defensive combination at the moment, and like look at what they can do and what they could do to Patrick Mahomes, how they could disrupt him. The Chiefs defensive coordinator, Stu Spagnuolo, he has beaten Brady in a Super Bowl before, so he knows how to do it. Will he do it again? You've got Kelsey and Gronk. You've got Tyreek Hill. Can the Bucs stop him? And then look at all the wide receivers you've got on the field as well. Hill, Evans, Godwin, Brown. There is just stuff happening everywhere on the field. Oh, you've got Lev Bell and Antonio Brown as well, a bit of a Steelers reunion. There is so much going on in this game that I actually almost think that when you beyond the headline, Brady Mahomes isn't the story really. It's everything going on around them, because one defense has got to stop one quarterback, and I think this is going to be that classic situation. It's going to be high scoring, I think, but it will be the defense that wins this for someone. And if you ask me right now which one, I couldn't tell you.
We're going to love the final question then, Laurie, but sorry, you're going to love the final question then, Hannah, sorry. I was just going to actually make a point. Actually, you say about Laurie and MJ. Laurie Lopez obviously is a former player as well in the female league. So the relatability she has there to the players is clear. And we just come off the media thing, and MJ certainly shut down Ian Rappaport on one particular question, which left you in no doubt that she's more than capable of handling those players and what she needs to do for her job extremely well.
I mean, as well, he was asking her a question about, was it anti-gravity treadmills, which are not actually her wheelhouse. So, yeah, and the interesting thing I think with Laurie as well, she didn't start playing till she was in her 40s. She kind of didn't have the opportunity or the time. She's got 2 sons, so she was sort of raising her family. So I think for her, football is something that's very much happened. You know, she's in her mid to late 50s now, I think, mid 50s. Don't want to overage her because we don't respond well to that as a species. But yeah, so I think it's really interesting that it's something that she sort of has always had the passion for, but hasn't been able to pursue until the last 10 to 15 years. I guess because the opportunities simply weren't there before that. I mean, I could be speaking out of turn for her there, but that's sort of what I've taken from what I've read about her story and what she was talking about. It wasn't something that she could pursue until relatively recently. So it's interesting, but once the change has happened, then it's happened, and it should be easier for everyone else, because there are great female coaches at high school and college level as well, and there always have been. So it's just being able to take that next step.
And I was going to say, Hannah, I also loved in your big summary of your whole career there, you failed to mention the bit that when you're in uni, you got a first in Loughborough. So it's based on a lot of brains and a lot of talent as well. And now,
can I just say, thank you for bringing up my first class degree, because it is a point of contention amongst all my loved ones that I get to say I've got a first class science degree, because I studied communication and media studies, and at Loughborough that sits under social sciences. And if you met me as a teenager and you saw how bad I was at science at school, it is hilarious. So I like to bring it out. Oi, I've got a first class science degree. So thank you for bringing that up.
We'll bring it up for boasting points for the family. We get it totally. You. But I am going to ask you to bring those science skills, because we have to put you on the spot. We have to ask you, Kansas City or the Bucks, who you got?
I want a disclaimer before I say this, that we are recording this on the Monday, right? So yeah, honestly, the Monday of Super Bowl week is too early to be making a pick. It's too early. And I haven't fully made up my mind yet, and this is probably partly so I reserve the right to change this before Sunday. But
Hannah, you can tell us who's winning at half-time if you wish.
Well, do you know what? It doesn't really matter, because you look at what the Chiefs did last year in the fourth quarter. Winning half-time, it doesn't matter. For me, and this might be because I've just spent 2 hours talking to various people from the organization in this moment, I think maybe the Bucks have got just a little bit of an edge. I think the thing with Kansas City is, they're going to be here for several years to come. The Bucks have gone all in with Brady for these 2 years, and the pieces they've put around him, and they've got it at home, which no one's done before, and they all love Bruce Arians, and they want to do it for him, and it's for them, it's like it's now. Whereas Chiefs, there's a very good chance they'll win the Super Bowl next year, and the year after, and the year after. That's not to say that the Chiefs will be complacent, because this Kansas City team are never going to be complacent in the slightest. But for me, like I said earlier, I think it's going to come down to which defense gets the edge, and the way the Bucks defense played against the Packers. I was watching the divisional game before, Packers Rams, and I was like, who could stop this Packers team? They are playing like a championship team. They looked flawless. Bucks shut them down. The Chiefs are always going to be there. They're always going to be there and thereabouts, and their defense is playing better this postseason than they were maybe at the beginning of the regular season. Patrick Mahomes is always going to make plays, always going to put up points. But I have a little, and I always just have this little feeling when it comes to Brady, things just go his way.
Anna, just before we go, what's your plans for Sunday night? Obviously with Sky Sports, are you going to be in the studio? Tell us all the crack, because that's our main way of watching it over here in Ireland on Sunday night.
Good to hear it. That's how you should be watching it. I won't be in the studio, no. I mean, usually I'd be in the studio for the playoffs, but with COVID, we have a strict limit on the number of people that we can have in the studio, and that includes camera operators and everyone else. And it's a very small number. So if it's between me and a camera operator, you're gonna need the operator, because sadly that's not a skill I have. So I will be watching it at home on my sofa, which I'm quite excited about, I'm not gonna lie. But Neil and the gang, so it's Neil, Sean and Jeff are in the studio. And then they've got a load of guests dialing in, and then there are actually going to be a couple of guys in the stadium for us. So I don't think I'm freaking out at all. I say Cliff Avrill's going to be there, and another guest, which I'm actually not sure of. It was going to be Rob Ryan, and then he selfishly went and got himself a job with the Ravens. So he's
Dallas Clark.
Is it Dallas Clark? There we go. Our lovely friend Dallas. So yeah, so then we have got people in the stadium for us there. Plus, the around the NFL heroes will be dialing in. I imagine Baldy's dialing in. So it's kind of the usual gang. But yeah, obviously all the guys are gutted because usually, they're there, but it just can't be done this year. So no, we're going to make it just as wonderful and big and brilliant as ever, but just from Sky Studios.
Oh, look, obviously, thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it. And also, congratulations on the great success in Sky Sports this year for the NFL. You're talking about all these sports there at the start. It'd be great to see you on the GAA coverage now with the Irish football next. Maybe if you are free during the summer, feel free to.
So weirdly, I have, and this will probably come back to bite me because I've cut the highlights for GAA. I have made the highlight show. I haven't even worked on that. And I've been to Croke Park actually. For a game. Cool. We did a game changer show from there, and it was the most incredible atmosphere I've ever witnessed at a sporting event. And I've been to a fair few, but I have to say, I understand the basics. I am very far from being qualified to talk about it on television.
We will tell you the crack whenever. Sorry, Mark.
All you need to know is that any team from Ulster just plays dirty, and it's only really teams from Dublin, Kerry, Cork that play decent games.
Don't listen.
That's something for me to look into. Well, I've got the summer to fill. Why not?
Just get yourself a Dublin jersey, Hannah. You'll be okay.
Don't listen to Brian either, Hannah. It's grand. But look, you can work on it whenever Dublin's announced for a big game, hopefully in 2 or 3 years' time. But for now, Hannah, thanks, man, for your time. I hope you enjoy the game on Sunday.
Thanks, guys, and you enjoy the game.
Folks, our next guest is not only a talented sports broadcaster, presenter and host, but she's also a talented athlete, former manager of the Ireland basketball teams, as well, of course, being an NFL fan. Ladies and gentlemen, we're delighted to welcome Jacqui Hurley. Jacqui, how's it going?
I'm great, guys. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. I feel like we're going through RT at this stage, Colin, but it's good to have Jacqui on.
Indeed. So, Jacqui, obviously, look, our viewers probably know you, like your work across a plethora of sports, but can you talk to us about your grow for the NFL and how that came about?
Do you know, it's funny because I think for a lot of people, when you start watching American sport, you realize the volume of it that's there. Like, I love basketball, I love hockey, I'll watch all of them. But when I lived in America, that's when I got really into it. I did my internship in Mississippi when I was in college. And like, the closest team down there is the New Orleans Saints. So it was only down the road. And then we just started going to Saints games, going to LSU games at the weekend, going to Ole Miss, Mississippi State games. And we just got really into it. I think it's the idea of the way that they treat sport. It's not just the sport, it's what the Americans do. It's the fanfare, the tailgating. I know they sell ads just for old rope in the middle of a match, but actually it's the atmosphere, everything around it that I just started loving. And once I started going to games, I was like, here, I'm all in. This is unbelievable. If we could do that here, I would love that. But yeah, it was amazing. So it started, that was 2005. So it's been a long love affair with this great sport that I don't get to watch as much of it now as I used to, but I still love it, I have to say.
And a love affair in particular with the Saints. And obviously we can see in the background, you have a lovely Drew Brees jersey. It looks like he may be coming to the end of his career. He's had a fantastic career, won Super Bowl, probably should have won a few more. What's your thoughts on the whole situation there, Jacqui?
should have won a few more, Brian, as well. That was the thing. Like, it's just, do you know what? The one thing with quarterbacks in the NFL is, like, we look at Johnny Sexton here in Ireland from a rugby point of view, and we all think that maybe he could last till he's 40. But when you look at, like, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, you know, like some of these guys, the careers that they are having, like well into their twilight years, is unbelievable. And like, I think, you know, for the people of New Orleans, what, you know, has happened in that city, and, you know, everything that the football team has brought in terms of a unity has just been unbelievable. And I think Drew Brees has been central to all of that. You know, he's been very, very eloquent in his speaking about how much he has, you know, been loved by everybody in the city. And there's absolutely no doubt about it. He doesn't owe anybody anything for the career that he has had. It would have been nice to see him win a few more Super Bowls before he walked away. And you could see the emotion on his face when they lost as well, that I think he realized this road is coming to an end quickly before him. But he's been a phenomenon to watch.
Yeah, he obviously had that beautiful moment at the end of the game on the field with Brady and the kids as well, which was lovely to see. But Jacqui, you alluded to the fact that you got into the sport when you were over there, and obviously based in the US doing an internship, I think with CBS at the time. It's probably fair to say you've probably had more experiences than the average Irish NFL fan, because you got to go to a lot of the Saints games when you were based there. But you also got to go to the fantastic Super Bowl that was in, I think, 2013 between the Ravens and the 49ers. I mean, that was an absolutely electrifying game. Well, until the electrics actually went out. Could you tell us a bit about that game and that whole experience?
Ah, it was unbelievable. You see, we had planned on going Super Bowl 2013 because we thought, oh, wouldn't it be amazing? The Saints were going really well at that time. You know, they were still like right in the mix of things. And we thought, wouldn't it be amazing if they were the team that got to play in their home stadium? Obviously, we didn't get it then. We're going to get it this weekend. But we kind of had always planned on the trip that being the one. And then we obviously get there and the Saints aren't in it, but we just had an absolute hoolie that weekend. It was Mardi Gras the weekend. It was on in New Orleans as well. And anybody who's been to New Orleans during Mardi Gras will tell you it's an absolute shit show. It just goes crazy. And it is just one of those amazing weekends to be part of. So we went over there. We didn't have tickets. We just kind of thought, let's just go see what happens. We'll try our very best to get them. And then we get in. And obviously that's the one that the lights go out, the electricity. It was actually the maddest experience, because what started off was we were all sitting around and then the electricity went out and everybody at the time thought it was a terrorist attack. So like there was loads of people around us were like really panicked. Everybody went from being, oh my God, is everything okay? To kind of maybe 15 minutes later, the stadium announcers were just like, here, listen, there's just a problem with the electrics. You know, the halftime show has blown something or whatever. And then when everybody realized it was just the electrics gone out, everyone was just like, all right, Grant, give us a few more drinks. We'll be fine. You know, so it was like 45 minutes though, which is a lot of time to talk to the people who are sitting around you. And like, obviously me and my husband were there. We didn't know anybody. And we had all these Raven fans beside us who, like, Baltimore to New Orleans is a 20-hour drive. These people had gotten on a bus in Baltimore that morning, driven all the way down to New Orleans. They were going to the Super Bowl and then driving all the way back. And I was like, you guys must really want to come to a Super Bowl. And they were like, well, we've never been to one before. And I was kind of thinking, like, they thought we were the pure novelty, like Irish people flying over for the Super Bowl. And I was like, yeah, but you live in this country. Like, you have no excuse not to be going to the Super Bowl. So we had great crack kind of chatting to the people around us, and everyone was having a few drinks together. And it was just really, really brilliant fun. And then the game itself was so electrifying. It was just like one of those amazing performances. And yeah, just had it all. It was great. I mean, I would definitely go back, but it's going to be hard to top that one as a Super Bowl experience.
Sure, we'll all head over to LA next year, Jacqui, for the crack. Yeah. But like for me, like I know you were talking about that Super Bowl in New Orleans, like Alicia Keys and the anthem, Beyonce halftime show. I remember as a young student in 2013 in Belfast watching that. That was great crack that night. And sure, when the electric went off, that was just an excuse for us to have just a bit more crack. So I mean, obviously, unbelievable being there. Can you maybe tell us, how did you get tickets for that? And secondly, was Beyonce's halftime show better than U2's? Because it was unbelievable on TV, never mind being there.
Halftime shows at the Super Bowl are like the most epic event to watch on TV. And when you're there, it's even more electrifying. Like the thing with Beyonce is, quick funny story. My husband is into music, but not that into music. He's more into the sport than the halftime show. He kind of knew there was a thing about the halftime show, but he wasn't really that invested in it. And then obviously she comes on, it's the whole like huge show. And Shane turns to me and he's like, geez, your one's pretty good. Who's she? And I was like, Beyonce? You might have heard of her. And then he was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. And then anyway, so then the whole entourage comes on, all the dancers, everything or whatever. And then she's obviously joined on stage and he's like, geez, who are these girls? They're very good. I was like, Destiny's Child. Like seriously, like how do you not even know this? So we had such a laugh. The people around us thought he was like living on another planet. But anyway, it was so much crack, just all that. She was out of this world. Like I'm a big Beyonce fan anyway, but I just like the way she performed, the way she used the whole stadium, like it's just, when you're watching it on TV, I don't know if you get just how much everybody there is buying into it. Like everyone is just roaring and it was amazing. It was such a, like just one of those performances that is going to be hard to be topped. It was unbelievable. Then the other side of it, the tickets part. So funny story, we went over no tickets, right? And we had always kind of thought, sure, it'll be like the All-Ireland final. You rock up on the day and you'll get something. And then it was getting closer and closer. And I was like, I don't think this is like the All-Ireland final, lads. I just don't know, And I kind of in my head had thought, sure, like things tend to work out. That's kind of, I'm one of those kind of people, like it generally works out. So I was like, look, we won't panic. It'll be grand. My sister and her wife were with us as well. The four of us were just like, look, there's four of us. We'll definitely get at least one ticket. We'll see what happens. And then like maybe 2 hours before kickoff, we still had nothing sorted. So eventually we went down and they've got like loads of StubHub places where you can go down. And we'd already kind of committed like how much we were going to pay for tickets. And it was kind of getting closer and closer. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to pay this. Okay, now I'm going to pay this. Okay, now I'm going to pay this. And then it's just like, at some point, you're just like, this is a once in a lifetime experience. You have to be comfortable with what you're going to pay because it's not like anything else that you're ever going to go to. And we had kind of said, here, listen, do you know what? Let's just go in. We went into StubHub, bought the tickets about an hour before kickoff, and then legged it into the stadium and managed to get in. None of us were sitting together. Sorry, me and Shane were sitting together, but like some more of our friends were sitting in a different part, and my sister and her wife were sitting in another part. But it was just unbelievable to actually finally get the tickets in our hands and get in, because like up to an hour beforehand I was actually thinking, oh Jesus Christ, imagine if we've come all the way to New Orleans to tell people we're going to the Super Bowl and we don't actually get to the Super Bowl. And we actually just went to a pub for Mardi Gras and just watched it. Like it would have been pretty embarrassing coming home and having not gone, so I'm glad it worked out anyway.
Yeah, Jacqui, glad to hear that you managed to acquire the tickets to get in. But I suppose, look, something that obviously seems dear to you is like the promotion of young women in sport. I mean, you're former manager of the under-16s, your recent book, and this is something of a historic Super Bowl. You got Sarah Thomas on the officiating crew, and obviously the diversity across all of both kind of teams, but particularly that Bucks coaching staff and two female coaches. Maybe you could talk a little bit, I suppose, about that.
Yeah, I think it's actually amazing. Like, I mean, it's funny because I used to live in Mississippi. Sarah Thomas's story, a lot of my friends over there would be kind of shouting about her for a long time. Because if you think about it, she is the first woman to officiate in a Super Bowl, but she was also like the first woman to ref a college game. She was the first woman to do a bowl game. She was the first woman to do one in a Big Ten stadium. So like this has definitely been coming. Like she refed her first game in 1999. So if you think like that longevity of what she has done in her career, and if you listen to her talk about it, she's been waiting for this moment for her whole life. She has been telling the NFL, you need to hire me, give me a full-time job. She did that, and now she's finally getting her moment. So I'm glad for her. I think the circus around her is inevitable because you're the first. I think for her, and I think even for like the Bucks coaching staff, you mentioned them, like obviously having two females on your staff. Well, having one is a big thing, but having two females on your staff is a pretty big one. And I think in particular with Laurie Locust doing defensive line coach, which had been such a male dominated area previously, is really unbelievable. But if you listen to what Laurie says or what Maral Javadifa says, I think for all three of the women involved this weekend, from their point of view, they just want it to be kind of done with, like I think they're all ready for it to just be, I work for the Bucks and it doesn't matter that I'm a woman. But I'd be of the view that I think these things should be celebrated because what it does, like, I like the idea of visibility. When I was a kid, Sonia O'Sullivan was my role model. I loved her. I loved everything about her, but I would have loved to have learned more about her and more about lots of other women. And that was one of the reasons that I wrote the book I did, because I wanted young girls to see that I can be this. And I think the one thing that women on the biggest platform are going to do this weekend is show young girls that they can do that too. So I think whether that's Sarah Thomas refereeing or whether it's somebody coaching, I think what that does is show girls that their ultimate opportunities are there now, and they're not afraid to speak about them, that how hard they had to work to get there, but what they have done to help other people do that. So yeah, like I for one am really excited to see their involvement this weekend, because I think it's taken a long time to get here, and I hope that for like in the next couple of years it won't just be one or two or three, it'll just be the norm, and there'll be loads more women involved.
Just turning our attentions to the game, Jacqui. Obviously, the Saints lost out to the Bucks, who then in turn beat the Packers, and now we have Brady back in his 10th Super Bowl again, going against Mahomes, who's I suppose the man they all think will take over the mantle in terms of being the next Brady in a sense of dominating the NFL. What's your thoughts on the game in general?
Well, like, I mean, the battle between the two of them is going to be epic, isn't it? It's like, the pretender to the throne and the king sitting there, I just like, it's hard not to get caught up in the narrative of that, because like, I'd be a big Patrick Mahomes fan. I think, he's a rock star, 25 years of age. He already has everything that you would want a great quarterback to have. So I think watching them is going to be really interesting, just to see how it goes. It's very hard to not kind of find the romantic in you that wants to see Tom Brady win a seventh, because there is an element of you that thinks, how long more can this go on? Like he goes down to the Bucks and suddenly drags them into a Super Bowl, like against all odds, really. Suddenly it's just like, bang, I can still do this. And like, he hasn't been perfect this year. Like, that's the amazing thing. It's not like Tom Brady has been waltzing, dancing, and just chucking it for fun. He has thrown more intercepts, and some of them like outrageous stuff. So the fact that he's still able to do it, though, when it really matters, it's hard not to get caught up in that and think that on Super Bowl days, he just does it. Like, this is his 10th Super Bowl appearance. Imagine if he wins a 7th. Like, it would just be absolutely ridiculous. So I think whatever happens, one thing that I would say is, okay, the game in general, there's going to be so many different subplots, but I think whoever wins, there's going to be a lovely story. It's either going to be watching that kind of chalice be handed over and seeing what Mahomes can do from here, or whether it's Tom Brady, however long more he goes for, to be that all-time, the greatest of all, no doubt, now no doubts about it. I just, like, one way or the other, we're going to get an amazing story on Sunday, and I think that's kind of what excites me about this.
Sorry, was that Tom Brady? Tom Brady? Oh, sorry, I don't know what that's doing here. I couldn't agree more, Jacqui. He's the absolute greatest of all time and an absolute legend. But I'm curious, actually, listening to you talk, I'm kind of wondering whether your husband might in some way be related to Brian O'Leary, because their knowledge of pop culture seems to be about equivalent there. So could be a distant relation there.
She lost me at Beyonce.
Yeah, I know, Brian, I know. That's the thing. But come here, Jacqui. We can't let you go away with just talking about it generally. We've got to put your colours to the mast. So, Bucks or Chiefs, who are you going for in the big game?
Do you know what? It's so hard, because you know what? The funny thing is, when you don't support either team, there's a big part of you is just like, I don't really care who wins as long as it's a good game. To me, I think I would like to see Tom Brady doing this, because I think it's like the ultimate fairy tale that he's gone there, he's done something. The fact that it's in their own stadium as well, like in Tampa, like I've been down there, and it's like, it's just a really cool place. The people are really invested in it now, and just for what it would mean for something to happen, like that. I said I went to New Orleans in 2013 hoping that the Saints would get to do it in their home stadium. I know it's not the same, obviously, with COVID. It's not the big rocking atmosphere that people would have liked, but I do think there would be something special about doing it in your own backyard. For that reason, and for the Brady factor, I'd probably like to see the Bucs doing it. But look, I'd be the first to say, if Patrick Mahomes can pull off something like this and go back to back, the youngest QB ever, I think it will be absolutely outrageous, and it will only be laying the fundamentals for what is going to be a rock star career for him. So either way, I'll be happy as long as we get a good game, but I would slightly tip the Bucs, only slightly.
Really looking to go level of Jacqui with Dean Rock on Ireland at 7, who we have on the show tomorrow. Jacqui, just really quickly, before we go, it's been great crack. It's one of the say because I was chatting to somebody the other day about this. Don't know if you've seen it on Championship Sunday. The crack on Twitter from people north and south in Ireland was just unbelievable. I think it was like the #1 trend in Ireland the whole evening. I think it's mad to see the growth of the game, isn't it? Even if you're talking going to the Super Bowl in New Orleans to now, the growth has just been incredible in Ireland. Like, it's been nuts.
Yeah, I think it's phenomenal, actually. And to be honest, the mad thing is, it's like people who you didn't know were into it. And suddenly you're in a conversation on Twitter and it's like, oh, right, I didn't know you did that. And it's like the amount of county players who are absolutely mad for the NFL is outrageous. Like, I remember years ago, it used to be kind of like me, Jacqui Hurley, a couple of others kind of chatting, Paul Murphy. And then suddenly it was like, bang, everybody's in on it. And a lot of it is like, culturally, just the time. Sunday evenings, you're either sitting down having a beer, watching a bit of golf or NFL or whatever. If you're a sports fan, it's like, find something that's on the TV that suits me at this time of my life. And particularly like this time of the year when there's very little on, it's just like, I'm all in on this. So having the crack with a lot of those players has been brilliant over the last couple of years. And Twitter will be on fire on Sunday. It'll be just so good. The conversation, you know, like what you guys are doing and just like bringing people together in something like this. There's a whole community of people there in Ireland who are huge fans of this, and it's only going one way. So I hope people will get to enjoy it, and we all get to have a bit of crack and some good conversations as well, because God knows we need a bit of a lift these days.
Absolutely. Jacqui, thank you so much for sharing your kind of fandom and experiences. Hope your Saints bounce back and they find their successor to Mr. Drew Brees for next season. And, you know, as everyone knows, you can catch Jacqui on RTE on various programs on radio and TV all throughout the year, covering the wide variety of sports. Jacqui, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks a million, Jacqui. Thank you. Hi folks, welcome to Super Moments, Stories of the Big Game, brought to you by Carry Out Off License, your place for big nights in. If you're looking to stock up ahead of Sunday's big night, Carry Out has some great offers at the moment, including Blossom Hill wine, which is now €7.99 each, an 18-pack of Miller, 330ml, which is €19.99, an 8-pack of Budweiser, 500ml, which is now €13.99, White Claw, 330ml 4-pack range, is €9.99, and you can check out Carry Out Off License on Facebook for more. Welcome back to Super Moments, Stories of the Big Game. We're looking at a different story from each big game that we've selected each day, building up to the big game this weekend when Brady goes up against Mahomes. Today, we're going to look at Super Bowl 44, and I'm joined again by my esteemed colleagues. I'm going to start with you, Colin. Super Bowl 44 was Peyton Manning, the Indianapolis Colts, Peyton Manning, who would go on to win one with somebody else, going up against Drew Brees, who is on the verge of retirement, and this was his only ring. My first ever NFL game, believe it or not, in a lovely university hall in Belfast. How did you enjoy that game?
Two #1 seeds going up against one another. There was the build up to it was phenomenal. It was one of the most hyped games I think I remember. But for me, look, the onside kick to start the second half is the defining feature of this game. Sean Payton left stadium with his cojones in a wheelbarrow and the Lombardi over his shoulder, deservedly so. Making bold decisions, win Super Bowl, it doesn't get more bold than going for it at the very beginning of the second half. But they knew they needed to do something. They devised a plan. They went for it. They executed it. They made it happen, and they walked away with the Lombardi.
They did indeed. Now, Michael, I said that was my first game. I'm presuming you might have watched it on the highlights, but even for you, as somebody that might have watched it back, Drew Brees' only ring, it stands out.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's the only ring he's ever had, and I know Colin just went over the onside kick, but when you go back and you watch the quick documentary that the Saints put out after, and the name they gave to it was Sabotage, and when they decided, you know, obviously the halftime show at the Super Bowl makes the time in the locker room a little bit longer, they ran over it, they talked it through, and they decided that it was the right thing to do. The guy that recovered the ball wasn't the guy that was supposed to recover it, so it just shows that luck was on their side that night. And yeah, for Drew Brees to only have one ring up at this point is shocking, but it's a Hall of Fame career nonetheless.
Yes, sir. And Mark, what was your thoughts on that game? Now, obviously, it's hard to believe that game so long ago.
Yeah, it's funny. Michael saying like their code name for the play was sabotage. Their code name to call it in the game they were just going to call ambush, was it? And Peyton, I believe, just whispered it in the ears going in and said we're going to go ambush. And I just loved that, as Colin alludes to, the cojones involved were amazing. That play goes down for a lot of reasons, though, as well. Brandon Bostic is infamous in Green Bay for not recovering an onside kick. Hank Bassett, who more famously, I suppose, was married to one of the girls of the Playboy Mansion, lives in infamy for Colts fans in that regard. But it wasn't enough. Like, they thought they had to take a possession away from Peyton Manning and the Colts, and they would need every inch. And it wasn't enough in itself. Bear in mind, Manning in the fourth quarter still had the ball, still had a chance, still was driving down the field. And really what sealed the dagger was Tracy Porter's pick six. That's the piece that stands out to me, because that was the moment when New Orleans and its fans, who really outnumbered the Colts fans in that stadium, they were rocking, they were enjoying it. They brought the French Quarter definitely to that Super Bowl. And that's the moment they believed and they celebrated, and you knew it was done.
And you know what? It's almost, we're talking there, Brian, about the fact that, Breeze only won one ring with the Saints, but I think, one's better than none, and it was a great performance for him, beating Peyton Manning, which obviously one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah, a couple of points which have already been called out. The first drive of the game, the Colts were really effective, went down and scored a touchdown with ease. So, and at that stage, you're thinking, okay, the Colts are here and probably will play. And just before halftime, the Saints actually scored a touchdown leading up to halftime. I think they ran arena, it might have been Reggie Bush, I can't recall. And then to go for the onside kick on the start of the second half was caught everybody surprised, obviously, but the fact that they called it, because having scored just before halftime, they were well in the game. It wasn't a case of we're down by 2 scores or we're down by a touchdown and we need to go for this. It was so close. I think it was only a field goal in it that you saw they need to do that. But again, they were trying to take the ball out of Peyton Manning Towns, and then from that drive, they also scored a touchdown. So the whole game was turned on a touchdown at the end of the first half and a touchdown at the start of the second half, which effectively put it all in the Saints' hands. And Americans alluded to, yeah, even at that stage, the Colts had an opportunity to go down and win it. And Tracy Porter pick six, and there's been a conversation for years whether it was a bad throw by Payton or where Reggie Wayne didn't run the route properly, but it doesn't matter. Tracy Porter got his 80-yard touchdown and stayed that big.
Yeah, Michael, I mean, it's worth saying, these games, they come down to who performs when the plays matter the most. They matter the most in the fourth quarter. And yeah, we've talked about Tracy Porter, but the Saints scored 15 points in that fourth quarter and the Colts didn't put a single point on the board. And that's what Super Bowls come down to, making the big plays when it really matters, as we've seen on the various games we've looked at this week.
Absolutely, mate. I think you got a spot on there, to be honest with you, and it really does come down to those big plays, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens on Sunday night when Brady goes up against Mahomes. But for now, thanks again to our friends over at Carry Out Off License, your place for big nights in. You can check out the Irish NFL show all this week and check out Pundit Arena on Facebook as well. We're going to give away a voucher for Carry Out Off License. Join us Sunday, 4 p.m. for the biggest pregame ever